McCrory's evocative tale from her short story collection, Those Sailing Ships of His Boyhood Dreams.
When the Ratter stumbled out of the bar, he was drunker than they all remembered seeing him, and there were no strangers to the sight of Flanagan roaring drunk. All day he pulled his body, dragging the dead half behind him and cursing the cruel God who had fashioned him this way. Bushmills killed the pain, so did Powers taken neat, and any temperance leaguers in the district knew to give him a wide berth. Even Father Malachi recognised a soul who'd suffered enough, and gave him easy penance each time he came creeping into the dark world of the confessional with a hangover like a hatchet in his skull. They were used to finding him sprawled wherever he'd dropped the night before, by the side of a track, at the bottom of a ditch, or in someone's barn. There were some college girls in the bar that night, down for the weekend to go sailing. So Sean the driver and Gormley Eyesight got him talking for sport. "Here, come on, give us some of your crack," they called. Real men were inviting him into a world of golden glow and brotherliness. Gormley Eyesight winked one bulbous look. "We out at the Leonards the day." Suspicious and slow like an animal, the Ratter took the small glass held towards him. "Aye," he said, and with one tip of the head he emptied it. The drink warmed his chest. Sean the driver got him another, and Flanagan felt the heat of friendship pour away doubts. "How many did you get then?" "Ah, Jesus, 10 big bruisers." "10? Is that all?" Gormley Eyesight opened his goitered eyes wide. They seemed to genuinely pop. He stared in 2 directions. The college girls giggled. Jesus, they were the size of pups. Brown ones, black ones, chestnut-backed, sleeked. They all came sniffing, with glossy fur biting with their wild teeth. The Ratter swallowed a ball of malt. Gormley Eyesight bought him another. "He's an expert." He bowed theatrically to the girls and handed the glass over. "Isn't that so? An expert in rodentology with diplomas from the University of Ballymun. That's right, isn't it, Ratman?" Flanagan was proud of his calling. He earned his own living and took no backhanders from anyone. There was a scheme back in the 40s when the council paid by the tail. He used to take them up in a sack and empty them on a table. 2 men in overalls would count. They kept him on, but they wanted to give him some funny title, wanted him to do everything. Bugs, fleas, lice, even rot in timber. They gave him a dark cap to wear and a queer sort of a jacket that he couldn't button. He hung them up in the cloakroom by the pay office one Friday night, and he never put them on again. He went back to his first love. Rats were smart. No one knew them like he did. He respected them, and the animals sensed it. They understood why he had to kill them, and he tried to be humane. He said rats were more compassionate than people because they did not bear grudges. Flanagan's home wasn't a real house. He lived out along the Loch Shore Road at the end of a footpath that was washed by mud in low tide and sank when the water line was high. That was where the timbered shed stood that had once housed the lobster pots of a family of long-gone fishermen who chose instead to fish with bricks in America. In the bar, the girls giggled at Gormley Eyesight's antics. Mini-skirted, their dimpled knees twitched, and he stared hard at the pink flesh. Sean the driver felt the excitement of a foreign audience, 3 strangers who would laugh at the same worn stories they told every night. "Tell them about the mermaids. He caught one, you know. A big rat that was," the driver laughed. "A mermaid," one of the girls said. "You're having us on." "I am not. Was I having you on about the rats?" "Hi, rat man, tell these girls about the mermaid." Flanagan lurched forward, his breath soured with whisky. He jabbed the air with his good hand. "I did. I saw them. 2 there were, a big one and a little thing, just out by the cove when I was going home." "Fallen home, more like," Gormley Eyesight laughed. The driver whispered, "Didn't I find him the next morning, wet through down in the bay where the grey seals come in? I tell you, his head's cut. He's a wild man, all right, out seeing mermaids when the rest of us are in our beds. 2 bloody big old seals they were." But Flanagan was silent, remembering how he came to find them. Bright, glittery things they were, and he didn't care who believed him. No one could take away what he saw that night. They were resting in that bit of the cove where, when the sea pulls back, the sand is always clammy, even on hot days. He came limping over the pebbles with a dull head and a belly full of first-rate poaching. Cursing the cold, he headed for his one-roomed house. He thought that he could see a light ahead. It looked as if someone was burning a candle on the beach. Something stared out over the loch. A sea monster. The hairs on Flanagan's arms stood out like a dog's. As he watched, he saw the creature dip its head. It kept washing in the cold salt water that came in rivulets, as if it was washing the earth-bound traces off itself. Its movements were sudden and urgent. The ratter from that distance could sense the creature's fear. He thought that a wave must have carried it in before cruelly running back to the swell of the sea. The creature was left, wanting to return with it. Then he noticed that there was something else. Another being. Smaller. A tiny thing. It looked darker. It was shiny. The familiar. He knew about such things. This was a sea witch. His foot slipped, and the animal turned to stare at him. Its face was startlingly human, but paler than any living thing Flanagan had ever seen. It couldn't move away, for it had no legs. Instead, its lower half appeared to end in a great green sack. Its tail, he thought, of dry fish scales. "A mermaid," he whispered. The creature was silent and continued to stare at him. "If you're a mermaid, I'll not harm you," he spoke up. He had started to lose his fear. What harm could the poor thing do to him after all? "I'll not hold you on dry land. Isn't that the death of the likes of yous?" The silent creature smiled. Its grin was wide and rather coarse. Almost the same mocking look he was used to from the world of men. Then it spoke. It asked just to be left alone, said that it wanted to sleep before the sea returned for it. Its voice was quiet, but not what he'd call musical or anything special. He remembered how the mermaid lay back on the sand. He watched the outlines of its body. He couldn't leave it. Not yet. Not without finding out more. "What's that small thing with you?" The creature covered it with its hands and told him that it was nothing but a small one. It floundered and tried to roll further away, pushing its familiar in front of it. It grabbed at its belly, then seemed to clutch at its own green tail. "It needs to be thrown back," it said, and he thought that he would never forget this, as it showed him the familiar, and it had legs. "It would never survive in the sea," the creature said. "Are you its mother?" The creature stared out over the loch. When it spoke again, it was just to tell Flanagan to leave. Its voice was brittle, and it told him to go away, begged him to continue whichever way he was going. But Flanagan wanted to know if it would come back. He would not budge. Finally, it promised that at the next high it would swim down if it was a calm sea. And for this the ratter agreed never to tell a word of what he'd seen. "They'll come out for me, you see. They'll hunt me. Then I'll never be able to come back. I'd be destroyed by those men if you say anything to anyone." She sat back and watched him go, safe because he was that drunk he'd remember nothing. She sighed and gathered her energy for the last desperate act. She tugged the anorak tighter about her shaking legs. She was trembling and could not stop. She was losing blood. It left telltale traces on the sand. Her clothes were ruined. Crawling out as far as she could go, she left the lifeless thing where the waves would steal it. It was her gift to the cruel sea. A peculiar kind of offering. "Mary, Mother, Star of the Sea, pray for the wanderer, pray for me." She spat into the bitter salt. The ratter knew that if he breathed a word, then others would find the mermaid's secret places, would hide in them and destroy their fragile existence. He kept silent, but the creature did not return. He watched the shore, waited for calm tides, counted the months. He had kept his word, and it broke its. Words that were written on water had no substance. He should have known. He had been tricked by a creature from the dissolving world, and he was angry. 12 miles down the coast in the next village, it was rumoured that a baby had been caught up in a net along with the mackerel. But each fishing crew claimed that it had not been them. So, who threw it back? Maybe it was just a story after all. Their wives crossed themselves and prayed it was not some local girl, and the priest reminded them of the sanctity of family life each Sunday for a month. Outside the hut, Flanagan spent days howling. He writhed in pain, moaned about promises broken, and hurled abuse at the sea. With his fists he beat the foaming waves of heavy tides. He alone raged on days when all around him the loch was calm. Then he got drunk. Then he spoke aloud. He broke the promise he made. Then he knew that it would never return. "Tell them about your rats," Gormley Eyesight egged him on, and Flanagan told them how rats were more honourable than people because, unlike man and every other creature, rats never broke trust. When he stumbled out of the bar that night, he was drunker than anyone remembered seeing him, and they were no strangers to the sight of Flanagan roaring drunk. Both Gormley Eyesight and Sean the driver reckoned they had got their money's worth from him for entertainment. They'd laughed to kill, watching the college girls' faces. The antics of the man would keep them both going as they wandered home to waiting families, Sean to his wife and Gormley to his mother. It was a calm sort of a night. A soft darkness enveloped everything. It covered Flanagan as it covered all things, and the ratter was alone. When he woke, he was still out in the cove. That was as far as he'd reached. He was wet through. He didn't care. He chose to lie quite still. Someone coming on him might have thought that he was listening the way a hunter listens for the sound of breathing. And if they had stepped closer, they might have seen that his rheumy eyes were scanning the distance, watching for a deceitful, glittering tail.
The Mermaid and the Ratcatcher by Moy McCrory was read by Gerard McSorley and produced by David Hunter. Next week we have another disturbing interlude. You come to the seventh dimension, you gets what you pay for. The drowned village calls out from the past in a haunting tale told across time periods.
You're leaving the seventh dimension.
Well, I'll be back next Saturday to introduce the second part of the dystopian Russian novel We, in which our hero finds himself infatuated with 1330, not the easiest name to wrangle in a love poem, in a story considered so potentially controversial that it was written in secret and banned in the country of its origin for over 60 years. The human spirit fights against the system as we start the weekend here on BBC4 Extra with me, Toby Haydock. I haven't been banned in my own country for over 60 years, and for many people that's rather a shame. It's the seventh dimension. If it's deemed unsuitable, it tends to come here. Presenters included.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
It's 7 o'clock. Good evening. This is Neil Sleet, and this hour is the TED Radio Hour. Then, a biography of the novelist who denied that she ever wrote fiction, maintaining that her books were based on her experiences. But while Beryl Bainbridge's own life was the primary source for her books, she was never afraid of adding a little colour. James Fleet and Samantha Bond read Love by All Sorts of Means at 8 o'clock. Another journey now through fascinating ideas based on talks by riveting speakers, TED style.
It's the TED Radio Hour from NPR. I'm Guy Raz. One night, 20 years ago, a guy named Ken Kamler was sitting in a tent about 5,000 feet below the summit of Mount Everest.
We were at Camp 3, and Camp 3 is 24,000 feet.
Wow.
And the summit is 29,000. So we were...
pretty close to the top.
Well, yeah, it was already pretty close to the top. There's another camp above. There's the highest campus at 26,000 feet. And we had some pretty good weather. And things were actually, going very well.
Ken Kamler was the doctor on this expedition. He was assigned to a group of explorers and scientists with National Geographic. How many people were you ostensibly sort of there to kind of look after in case there was a crisis?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And it involves moral issues as well. I'm there to take care of my team, 12 climbers and about 50 Sherpas, people who help us up the mountain. But if another climber from a different expedition has a problem, I feel obligated to treat that climber as well.
And all with a very